this week, following on from our last one, it's hobbies. Hobbies and stuff that you spend your time doing. I know holidays are hobbies for some people, or even professions. But you know how I feel about holidays. I got some stick for that, mind. Got some stick for that. So anyway, it's been holding it down all weekend, and now sunny, dry as an un's chuff. That one's for Sarah, right there. It was me dare. What's the weather like down there, Mark?
What, me nun's chuff?
Is it cold as a witch's tit?
Yeah, it's. I think I'll have to wave when I
Got
get the
both in.
giblets.
Got them both in. Chuffed with myself.
Yeah, yeah. I was.
Sarah would be proud.
Yeah, you did well. How shall I say? You
Aye.
slipped that in well.
Slipped them in.
I mean, we've had a bit of a downpour today, but nothing we can't recover from. I'm expecting a bit of sunshine today. Let's hope it's not too hot, like in Europe. How would you describe the weather in Europe?
It's climate change. It's climate change. The world's dying, Mark.
That's it.
Better hurry up and record some more episodes before we're all dead.
We've got to be careful. There's too many bushfires going on.
Bushfires. It's all that friction. Not enough lube.
Yeah, we're slightly delayed because we did one of those charity boxing fights for cancer research. Really good
lad.
night. Had a good he had a good tear up with a big guy. He was I don't know how tall that guy was. He was huge. Must have been about 6'5", 6'6" or something. But yeah, Ray did a really good job, and it was a fantastic night. 18 fights, a lot of money raised for charity. So
18.
yeah, 18.
It's any wonder there's so much money mentioned on the front page of the website.
Oh yeah, I think they've raised
thousands.
28 million. 28 million.
It's mental. They must have
it was
raised.
good.
Can't have 18 fights.
And we've got to mention that, we've got to mention from the Master of Ceremony as part of what Ray's,
Yes, we did.
sponsors.
Yes, we did. Loose Gadgets, and he says is that the I can't remember what version he said, but he compared us to Loose Women. I was like, that's exactly what we want. It's the Geordie version.
Yeah,
Geordie version.
Yeah.
Couple of gadgets.
It is, and it was sort of on from last week. So we were discussing last week your particular like of sci-fi and my particular like of true life stuff, and it got me thinking about hobbies and what I might perceive as a waste of time or waste of perspective. And I found a quote which said something like one man's meat is another man's poison. What one person values, another man may think is worthless. And you get into that. Or one man's rubbish is another man's brass, and but how we sort of perceive how people spend their time, and it got me thinking about the old adage about Geordies and allotments was my starting point. Allotments.
Do you know what it is? My brother's just got one.
Has he? Flipping it.
Well, there was a really long waiting list. It was something like 5 years, and the woman who's got it can't manage the whole thing herself due to some medical stuff she couldn't have foreseen, so she can't get about. So and he knows her, right? So she said, "Look, do you wanna split this up?" And he loves growing his veg. You should see some of the. I mean, he's got an upstairs flat with sort of steps. We go all the way. Every step has got a plant pot or something on it. And he's got these shelves at the bottom with all these different growers and things in. And he sent us I'll send you it later. The photo of this lettuce. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's huge, but he's quite proud of his. He's a bit of a doomsday prepper, So
is he?
You should see.
He's got
you should see his
loads of
cupboard.
spam in his cupboard.
Oh, he's got tons of stuff in his cupboards, and he's got 2 fridges.
Yeah.
He's a massive fan of the yellow labels, so he's always out coming back with all sorts of stuff, filling freezers. His overflow goes into my mum and dad's freezer. But he loves growing that stuff, so he's got himself an allotment, so he can start doing some proper veggie stuff. I mean, it's not like they're not 20 pence for some carrots. these days. But I mean, it's not about that. It's not about that, is it? It's not about the cost. It's about that you grew themselves.
That's where I struggle with the perspective, because similar, my dad had one for a few years, and you work all year for a harvest, don't you? And you pull everything out the ground in a week, and then it all rots. Do you want some veg? You want some veg?
You have to foist it on all your
6
family
bags
neighbours.
already. Yeah.
Do you want this entire sack of parsnips? I've got another 3 in the van. So well,
yeah, and like you say, you try and understand it, because you can go to Aldi and get parsnips for 27p. And why? I'm trying to understand, why would you want to spend a full year growing your parsnips and your carrots, when you can get them? You could spend that time doing something else, because you can buy them cheaper at the shop. And you get into it's a passion, isn't it? It's a love of doing something and watching something grow.
I suppose. I mean, this is what Stu gets out of it. I think is he looks at the thing like this massive lettuce. He looks very proud of it. See, I did that. I can grow stuff. I not just grow stuff, but grow quality stuff. And he's grown that at home, and he saved money. His all he had was a packet of seeds, and but what about all the compost and stuff you had to put in there? Then the pot, one-time expense. All right.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't get it. Gardening's not. I would happily have a backyard over a garden.
Well, that was the other one. Gardening. I mean, we've just had our gardener today. And, we're fortunate enough to we pay him to cut our garden, because we're not green fingered. And I looked at a couple of plants and I said, "Are they all right?" And he went, "They've been dead months, Mark. Them." And I'm like, "Oh right." He grabbed a twig and he snapped it in front of him and he went, "Mark, there's nothing growing through that." I was like,
right.
Yeah. And he started mentioning some other weeds that I could put in these plants, and I would have to dictate it from some recorder, because I had no idea what he was saying. It's just like, are they flowers or plants or trees or whatever? And he's just like, "Oh, Mark, come on." Yeah.
I bought my mum one of them. You can get subscription plant boxes.
Right.
I bought my mum one of them for Christmas, where you can either go in and pick what you want. So I got a 6 months worth. It was like 75 quid, right? You can either go in and schedule what you want delivered and when you want it, or you can just say, "Send us whatever's seasonal." Right? So, I mean, you should have seen the stuff she got. I mean, she had boxes of bulbs and seeds, and she had some veg and some various plants. I mean, she was chuffed a bit, so she's been going nuts, just ripping stuff up and pulling clippings and dropping things in, and she had all sorts of things sprouting on windowsills and chuffed to bits. I'm like, nah, that looks like work. Yeah. That looks like work to me. That's not fun. But her, she was living it up. One of the best things I've ever bought for Christmas.
It's like I started thinking about, we're both self-employed. We have an hourly rate, don't we? We roughly work out our hourly rate, what we want to achieve in terms of cost. Now, if you can achieve that hourly rate by doing some work today, and you need to cut the grass, and that's £10 an hour. Well, we're going to get somebody to cut the grass for us, aren't we?
Yeah. If you're earning,
it's not an investment of our time.
Well, no, I mean, if you're earning, I don't know, say 50 quid an hour, and it costs you 10 quid an hour to get the grass cut, then for that hour you earn 40 quid.
Yeah.
But you still earn 40 quid. Right, but you also got the grass cut. So is it better to lose 40 quid or 10 quid? 50 quid or 10 quid? Cutting it yourself.
I mean, I'm not going to go back to the Sunday lunch malarkey, because then I just add it in the morning. My job is to clean and polish me and buff me Capri gear, that I haven't got. So in the morning, I clean and polish the Capri gear every Sunday morning. Then I go off to, me Auntie Beryl's, who's in HR, and have Sunday dinner there. And it just how do people get sort of sucked into every Sunday? That's what I do with the car. It's just like,
Dad, twice a week.
Yeah, twice a week.
Most weeks when the weather's like this. He'll happily do it twice. If he's been out...
He's down to the bell yet?
It's funny. I joked about that. He says, you'll be rubbing the paint off next. He says, oh, my dad used to say that. So, well, you know. He said, well, I've been out. Been out since I washed it on Sunday.
And how much have we carried through over years and years? Because we're old enough to remember when cars basically did rust, didn't they? They did, and that's why we all had garages. The weather and the paint and the stuff wasn't. But now the paint jobs are so good on cars, they don't really rust, do they?
No, half the car's plastic and the other half's galvanised. So I mean, you know, things don't. It's not like the old Mini that one day would literally just be a steering wheel.
Yeah. Remember Michael Bryson? Remember Michael Bryson's car at Pandora and Bolden? Oh, it was basically like Fred Flintstone, wasn't it?
It would do any weather though. Those tyres were almost like bike tyres, so they would just plough through the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you rock up in your Beamer, and we're having to push you from behind out of the car park in your rear wheel drive.
Wouldn't go anywhere, would it?
Yeah. We had to literally push that rear wheel drive Beamer out of the car park to get it going. Here, Mark's in his little Michael's in his little. What was it? Was it a Fiat or a
like a Fiat Panda or something like that?
It was
like a sewing machine on wheels.
Suzuki. It was one of them tiny things.
Yeah,
and he swore by it.
Yeah,
he had all kinds of battery in it as well because he used to sit and do his rollies in the car.
I love the phrase. He said, it'll go as long as it does. It owes me nothing now. I've had it that many years. It owes nothing. And when it came time to say goodbye, he didn't feel badly because it just lasted so long.
As some cars used to back in the day. Some cars used to.
Yeah,
these days,
I looked at some unusual hobbies, and we unfortunately recently have fell into that class of unusual hobbies, and one of them is called toy voyaging, which is where you take a toy on holiday and everywhere you go you take a picture with it. Oops.
Oh right, Hacky Travels.
Yeah, so Hacky Travels has fallen into that category of voyaging.
There is a greater philosophical purpose behind it, though.
Yeah.
That we're trying to, inspire people with. So, that has a different edge to it.
I missed a couple of opportunities at the weekend, which were, in terms of the boxing and the ring, and I realised that I'd left it at my mother's house, but I could have picked up a couple of photo opportunities. But yeah, here's another one: competitive duck herding.
Shut up.
Yeah, that's an unusual hobby that is actually carried out.
Right, there's duck herding, then there's competitive. That adds a whole new level of. Well, that means that it's popular enough to have a competition. 2, someone's come up with rules, right, for someone in order to win, and guidelines, and also, pardon the pun, when you foul. So when you break the rules and what the punishments are, and it's not considered herding unless you do it like this.
That's it. I was thinking, would we create our own North Tyneside branch and go down to Tynemouth Boating Lake? It's the UK competitions held at Tynemouth Boating Lake. With the ducks, we'll do a bit of duck herding.
We go down the ridges and do some chav herding, couldn't we?
Yeah, we wouldn't find a duck down there, wouldn't it? It'd all be eaten.
Bag of weed. Stick a bag of weed in the end of a stick.
Yeah. What was the other one? Rock balancing. We've all seen that, haven't we? People who sit there and balance rocks by the side of water and stuff like that.
I feel like I've seen that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that. Me mum and dad, every year, get involved with the council and the Comrades Club and do the sandcastle competition down by the Rendezvous Cafe. Right, and of course they have to have different categories, right? Because there are different skill levels, and when I say different skill levels, there are people who are doing things that take hours, and they've got methods. and they've got ways of treating certain types of sand with certain amounts of water and making things sort of sculpted. I mean, these are sculptors, basically, but they're using sand. So they have to have their own category of the realistic whatever, like sculpting whole mermaids and stuff. And then you've got kids with their bucket and spade.
That'll be
at
awesome.
the other end, just having a laugh.
Yeah.
Aye.
Making a little tunnel underneath so we can put some water in.
Aye. And it never stays in.
No.
Look,
Always collapses.
it's disappearing.
Yeah.
Aye. So there's that. There's and to be fair, the council put up the awards and that, little vouchers and stuff.
Yeah.
Kids love it,
like
apparently. But you always get these serious ones turning up. Very competitive. Mind you, some of the stuff's amazing, to be fair. Proper sculptured stuff. But
oh yeah. You see them abroad when you're on holiday, don't you, by the beach? And they've got the collection jar, trying to make a bit of a living from it. So that's like a hobby turned into and I like that. So if you've got a hobby and you can turn it into something that creates you decent cash, now that's getting to a decent level, that, isn't it?
I started that way, pulling computers apart and writing my own software and building my own websites. And before I knew it, my dad said, "You can get into computers." So I did.
Yeah.
Learned some commercial languages and commercial applications and whatnot. And went from there, and now I'm a power nerd.
Yeah, but just on that though, so these hobbies that a lot of us, I'm a habitual hobby guy who never sticks with anything. I think we've worked out it's just the way my brain works that I can't stick with anything.
Piano? Where's the piano?
It's let's just say I'm tinkling some other ivories now.
There is that though. If a hobby turns to a profession, you can end up hating the hobby because of the profession, right?
Yeah,
that's happened to me once or twice.
Well, and I like that. So with a lot of people, let's just take me or some other people, they continue these hobbies for quite a while, but then you meet them a few years later and they're not doing that. What happens? So your kid, at some point, does he stop doing the plants because he's bored? What happens? These things that we're passionate about, what happened? We just move on, life evolves.
Well, and the passion just drops or goes, or for me, it's quite often that my attention isn't always fantastic. I'm either totally sucked in or I'm not interested. And sometimes it'd be quite easy to go, "Ooh, look at that. Look at that, that's shiny. I'll have that." It could be a new game, it could be not that I'm a gamer, but somebody could talk me into it and they sound passionate about it. So it makes it sound exciting. So then I go, "Ooh, I'll give that a go. Wouldn't mind some of that. I go with it. I'm crap at it. It's rubbish, that."
Yeah.
It's rubbish.
I remember,
what are they on about?
What's that? I think we've discussed this. Carl brought his game station around once when he was young, and that game where you've got to get off the beach. It's a shooting game with soldiers and.
Was it Call of Duty or?
Call of Duty, that's it. Thank you. So Call of Duty.
He was fairly good at that, to be fair.
I know, but I tried it 4 times and got missed off and switched off.
He was in competitions with. He was in a clan and everything at one point. Aye. I remember him showing me how to play it, and I hadn't a clue. Right, he ended up trying to show me how to play it, and he was talking about how he has to wear headphones because you cannot see through the walls, so you don't know where anyone is. But if you're wearing headphones, you can hear them coming round the corner.
Oh, right.
And shut up.
The sound effect.
Shut up. You went, "Does it get that? Does it get that?" You went, "Yeah. Yeah, you got to get everything. You got to get your proper headphones, get everything set up, and you can hear them coming up behind you, straight for a headshot." Apparently, he was rather good at it, and there's money in it. If you get it right into some of the competitive divisions, there's money in it. It streams on YouTube. There's YouTube streams of these live competitions of these clans from around the country competing together, and then they go to compete internationally. It's all this gaming stuff. So I mean, he was really good at it at one point. So I mean, he could have done that.
I just know that as we go, I mean, I don't think Carl has time now for playing games. So he's either gone on to that, or he's found some other passion. And so, and I'm just trying, something that we would talk about that we're really passionate about right now. Like I'm going to buy a new fondue set and melt cheeses. I'm really passionate about it. But in 10 minutes' time, I'll not be. So what happens? We just get
Dunno.
sick of it.
I asked Carl as well about. He had two passions that I've seen on Instagram.
Yeah.
One of them was Skipsy Fit,
Yeah.
where he did his whole fitness thing for ages. Then pandemic hit, and that changed to building stuff with wood, and recycling pallets and stuff like that. So what happened to that?
Ah, yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that was during the pandemic. That I said, but you seem to be kind of good at it, so that could have been a business. You could have flogged stuff, and aye, can't remember what he said after that, but he stopped doing it. But that's the thing. I mean, do you sometimes hit a hobby, get good at it, the learning stops, and then you go, right, I've done that, good at that. What's next? Something's happens for me. I learn a new programming language. I go, right, what's the next one? Tired of writing them things. Go on to the next bit.
I think it's a type of personalities we are, and I think you said it before there. If I see something bright and shiny, I want to go for that now, and I can forget about the thing I'm doing.
Especially when someone makes it look easy, or makes it look really fun. You're like, ooh, I want a piece. That looks easy. You make that look really easy. It is. So you go and buy yourself one. This is rock hard, this.
Yeah.
Attic full of stuff.
I looked at some, when does a hobby go too far? And I got some examples of hobbies that have gone too far. So the obvious one is plastic surgery. Yeah. So you start off. It might be. I'm not sure if you call it a hobby, but somebody that wants to look like it. Barbie's out at the minute, isn't it? Barbie the movie with what's she called?
Aye.
And Ryan Gosling is Ken.
And what's her face from the DC movies?
Yeah,
Can't remember.
Yeah, I'm forgetting. But anyway, I remember a while ago there was a girl, and her mission in life, her hobby, was to look like Barbie. So she spent like thousands and thousands of dollars making herself look like basically a doll, didn't she? So that's an example of where I would say something that you might call a hobby has gone too far. I also read about this woman. Her dad died a few years ago, yeah? And then a hobby was she wanted to visit funerals. So that became a hobby, an obsession. Anywhere there was a funeral in her town, she'd go to that funeral.
I heard that. Where did I hear that? Isn't that odd? Is it because she liked the grieving process or something, or she felt it was an outlet?
Yeah, there was. I mean, I must admit, like, doing the buses when we go to a couple of churches, and I love just walking around the church and looking at the gravestones. There's some sort of morbid fascination, But to sort of attend people's funerals that you don't know, just to get your kicks, it's just like.
Otherwise, did you ever see that woman who wanted to turn herself into a cat?
Oh right.
I think it was a panther or a tiger or something, and she had all the cheekbone structures, all these different implants, and then there was this guy Joe. Oh, I can't remember his surname. He's been on Talk TV a few times, where he thought he was not only trans but Korean. He's British, and he thinks up to now, I mean, he's stopped and he's written a book about his experience, and he's rolled back some of the changes, but he thought he was South Korean. So he had his eyes changed, had his cheekbones changed, his lips changed, his facial structure changed, and he thought he was a trans woman, right? So he had a lot of feminizing of his face and this and that, and he's rolled it all back, and he's talked in a book about how it was a bit of what's going on at the minute, the social pressure of, oh well, maybe you're not gay, maybe you're actually, you think you're the opposite sex, and there was some of that. He says he just felt like it all filled his brain, and when he stopped and looked at the next surgery he was planning, he wasn't quite happy with his nose. He wasn't quite happy with his lips. And then he got asked those sorts of questions when he kept coming in for these controversial interviews. Well, so when is it enough? I think he eventually asked himself the question. And it turns out he's like, do you know what? No, I'm definitely a man. I'm just gay.
I like
And he's
that.
rolled back. So he's undone some of the surgery, but he really looked quite deep. And then he went, you know what? I'm going to write this all down. So he's published a book about it, about the social pressures and the things that are going on right now in the news and in society, and how all of this kind of piled on him. It was over 20 grand's worth of stuff. Or was it 200 grand's worth of stuff? Sorry. Yeah, and so he was working to pay for his surgery. He's a talented bloke as well. But he was using all these thousands and thousands of pounds just for his next surgery.
Yeah. It made me think there about you talk about the social pressures we get, and when we were younger, did you fit into one of the sort of the groups of in my day it was sort of mods and rockers? You know, you sort of went into one of those groups, didn't you? And I was more into two-tone, but you sort of got dragged into the scene, didn't you? I remember a song came on the radio the other day, Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. And I said to him, I said, good Lord. I said, we used to dance to this, you know, with me two-tone pants on and all that. And but you got sort of sucked into that way of thinking when you got to sort of a certain teenage years, didn't you?
Well, I was always a bit of an outcast, a bit of a nerd at school. So school's not a good example to follow. But after then, I went from Kylie Minogue to Bon Jovi to AC/DC and ZZ Top to Metallica, Sepultura, then right up to death metal, and then out the back of death metal I went into The Cure in my goth phase. I had cowboy boots, stirrups, chains, very long black hair, a raincoat. Everything was black. I even had black bedding, so black covers for me, for my duvet cover and a valance, all of it black. I traded it. Get me? So I was So I went from sort of pop music, rock music, metal, heavy metal, sort of a death metal, right up at the other end, right the way. I didn't stop. I went right the way through Pantera and Sepultura and just didn't stop. And then came out with The Cure, Fields of the Nephilim. And then I ended up on The Prodigy. And from The Prodigy I went from Prodigy to LTJ Buchan, so proper drum and bass, to Sasha, Paul Van Dyke, and these days Tiesto and a few others. So these days my favourite music is female vocal trance, because I like the layers. I like pulling it apart and all of that. Back then I loved that music because I was angry all the time. And then I started smoking weed and things changed. And next thing I know, I'm into trance, dance, electronic dance music, full on everything. Still love The Prodigy to this day. I still love a lot of stuff. So if it's dance, trance, electronic, mind you, I will happily play ZZ Top of it. Just comes up in a random playlist or comes onto the radio. Something like that, a little bit of ZZ Top. AC/DC will always be epic. It was one of the very, very few concerts I've actually been to.
Yeah.
And what a show they put on, with Angus on the shoulders of one of the security guards. He just disappeared off stage at one point, still playing. Wandered off, came down the side of the crowd on the shoulders of this security guard, still playing this riff over and over and over, this repetitive riff over and over. It was Thunderstruck, if I remember right. came all the way around, stood on, you know how they have the sound sort of guys somewhere in the middle of the crowd. There's usually a sound studio bit and whatnot. Stood on all of the gear there, still playing. Played another little bit of a riff. Decided to get back on the security guard's shoulders in his school uniform, as he does, you know, in his shorts. Still playing all the way back. Reappears on stage, and it was was it the Wrecking Ball tour or the? Well, anyway, Brian Johnson comes swinging in on this Wrecking Ball, singing, just from one side of the stage, this thing hanging from the ceiling, singing top of his voice, absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic.
I managed to find a little comfy spot just out of the side, so I wasn't surrounded and crushed by a load of people. Absolutely. It was one of them ones I thought, it's one of those ones you've got to go see before they stop touring. That was me thought that AC/DC is one of the all-time classics, right?
I was never a fan of ZZ Top, but I loved the interesting fact about the names of the band from ZZ Top.
Frank Beard.
Yeah.
Frank Beard.
The only one that didn't have a beard was called Frank Beard. Just brilliant, isn't it?
It's brilliant. Yeah. Sharp Dressed Man, one of the best songs ever.
Yeah,
I love that song.
That takes me back to when I was sort of 17. That and they were. Well, what was that? That would be 1984, 85.
1880 what?
1885. Good shout.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got another. So adding on to the funeral one. So we've got a woman here. Her hobby is drinking 2 litres of blood per month for the last 30 years. Human blood.
That's not a hobby.
That's, yeah.
God, Jesus. Right, she thinks she's a vampire.
Well, you know, what's the film? Twilight or something? Not sure what they're called. Yeah.
I mean, she realises the kind of stuff that might be in it, right?
Well, yeah, just like, when I read it, I was just like, how do you start that journey? How do you start that?
I mean, we're not built for it, really, are we? In volume.
No.
Imagine
that.
Then
I went back to the. So we started off with allotments, and then I added on at the end. So racing pigeons and leak shows.
Oh my God!
Geordie's.
My dad used to take us to them.
Yeah.
Them fairs, you know, when they had people used to grow massive marrows.
Yeah.
And everybody used to call each other Mara. You all right, Mara?
All right, Mara.
These massive marrows, huge onions, all these massive cloves of garlic and cabbages and cauliflowers and that, and there'd be like a proper competition and rosettes handed out and.
Well,
bloody hell, that's a blast from the past, isn't it?
Well, my dad was telling us a story on Sunday about when he took his mate to Percy Main Club leek show, but it wasn't just leeks; it was other veg. And he said, obviously, Percy Main Club after a while worked out that he could basically cheat on the tomatoes, so you could just go to Presto and get 6 tomatoes and put them in the leek show and see it. Presto,
Presto, dear me. Prestos.
Yeah, you could go to Presto and buy 6 tomatoes. So what they forced you to do was they made you put them. He called it a trusset. So that the
like a wreath type thing. So you had to
so where the tomato before the day when Morrison's and Sainsbury's and all of them sell them that way now because they last a bit longer. But they forced you to bring them in the trusset. And he said, well, whack and run the leek show at Percy Main Club, and his mate called Mac. I love Mac. Mac's electrician. And he turned around, there's Mac standing there eating a tomato. And they hadn't finished the competition, and he was eating the veg that was on show.
I just picked one up.
He said, I thought it was a buffet. He said, it's not a bloody buffet, it's the competition.
A buffet? Wow, that's the weirdest buffet.
Aye?
Wow, I thought it was a buffet. Wow.
But, he was... I remember my dad growing leeks for years, and that time of the year where you had to pull... you spent all year growing them from, like, seedlings or whatever, and then he would feed... Going back to that blood one, he would feed them ox blood, something. um, some sort of ox blood he would feed them as part of the nutrition for the leeks, and and then you pull the leeks out and you'd start peeling back the layers, and if it was slightly bruised you would take another one, but you were dicing with death pulling back these layers of the leeks, because from the bottom to the butt, where the first leaf, if it's shorter or longer than a certain value, it was excluded from the competition. So there was this sort of tense standoff when you're peeling leeks, and it just takes me back. And yeah, I mean, not that he grows leeks anymore. He has plenty of leeks, but yeah.
Unrelated.
Yeah, and the last thing it got me thinking about was so when you go into a relationship with somebody, and I've watched people around me, family members, etc., and you have no interest in a certain hobby, but then you get with somebody, and then you suddenly adapt their hobbies. Well, yeah, you should. Either they join your hobbies. Let's just keep it simple, like bikers. I don't know, motorbikes, and they're a biker. So then you become a biker and you get sucked into it, or it's just, why do we, something that we would say we would never get involved in, we suddenly become very passionate about because our partner's involved in it.
Yeah, bungee jumping.
Well, yeah,
all of that stuff. Yeah, well, it's a chance to get to know their friends and all the stuff that they talk about, and then everything's in context. Sometimes I found that people just get jealous because they're always talking about Jeff or Susan or whoever. That's always got this bike and that bike, and that's all they talk about all the time. Is, he's just got this, and we'll head off to this, and we're going to go see the TT over in Isle of Man, and then you say, well, I just feel left out.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to be part of some of this.
If you can't beat them, join them. Something like that, isn't it?
Just let them have it.
Let
them have their hobbies. Like you cannot be around each other 24/7. So let them have their thing. They go that resets them. Then they can come back and then be with you. But I've got to listen to all the. Yeah, well, let them talk about their stories, and let them have enthusiasm for something. I mean, life's tricky enough. If you find something you're enthusiastic about, let them enjoy their enthusiasm. Enjoy the fact that you're not getting in the way of that enthusiasm for them, and just let them have it. Yeah. You don't have to join it.
Got to be careful, haven't you? Because you enter their world of what they're passionate about, and you start. Let's just say you become really good at it and equally passionate. Does that create resentment?
Yeah. This is the thing. This is the risk you take, and then you start learning a bit more, start getting good at it, and then all of a sudden, they're actually following you around, not the other way around. So, and they stop doing it because they realise that they're not passionate about it now because it's become a resentment. Yeah, because you've taken over.
Yeah.
Now their friends are actually your friends, and they find out you went down to the pub without them. Is it what? Why didn't they let us? Oh well, as you were busy with the thing, and they just asked me if I wanted to come along, and all of a sudden it's not her group or his group; it's the other way around. So you do run that risk.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about. We touched on lockdown and the famous ones about everybody got a dog and a 4-pack of beer, but then there was stuff like, remember, banana bread. Everybody was making banana bread, and other hobbies that we created during lockdown, which probably, I mean, the sad part of it is we're hearing all of these stories now because money's getting tight. Is that the bloody pound shelters are filling up with cats and dogs, aren't they? Because they can't afford to look after them now.
This is the thing, because they got them so they had an excuse to go out for a walk. I'm not saying they all did, but there was certainly a chunk of that.
Yeah.
Or to keep them sane when they're indoors, that kind of thing. Well, it's dogs not just for lockdown; it's for life, isn't it?
No, I mean, some of these breeds that became popular as well, they weren't cheap either, were they? And they were bred till the bloody bottom ends of them would fall out, and then they would be thrown on a scrap heap. These dogs, wouldn't they?
Can I ask you a question about that? Right.
Yeah.
What your perspective is? When does a cross become a pedigree?
Well,
when does a cross spaniel with a poodle or a labradoodle, when does that become like a proper pedigree breed then? Because officially it's not a breed. It's kind of a mongrel. It's a crossbreed, right?
No,
But now it's totes a fish. It's totes a fish now because, it was mixed with this and this. So now it's a proper pedigree. So well, all dogs were mixed from some other dogs. So even the pedigree ones were bred for their traits, and then eventually a new breed came out of it that was good at catching rats or good at fetching ducks that you've shot back to you, or sniffer dog, or somebody was on the news the other day talking about their truffle dog. I've got these truffle sniffing dogs. They just send them out and they go and find truffles.
Oh, right, yeah.
And of course, he ran a restaurant of some kind, and he likes to go forage and get his own stuff. And he's got this truffle dog that goes and finds because they're bloody expensive, right? And you can flog them for a bit. So,
but yeah, I just think it's whatever fashion dictates what'll be allowed in crufts, isn't it?
Isn't that the thing though? They've become a bit of more of a fashion or a statement. I see your average Karen, on the field, because it annoys the hell out of Stu because he's got his pedigree sheepdog. The
border collie.
What do you call him? Border collie. Brilliant dog, but he knows how to look after it. It's full of beans.
Yeah,
but he's out for hours with it. He's taught him all kinds of tricks. But he wasn't interested in sheep. Apparently it's about 1 in 10, 2 in 10. Where you'll just put the dog in front of the sheep, not interested.
Yeah.
Right, so they sell them. Right, so this is how he got Zach.
Oh yeah.
But when you see him do the things, right, he's taught him to do certain circles around the field before he'll chuck the ball, or he'll tell him to run through his legs, or he's taught him the difference between left and right. So he'll run behind him and come left, and then run out to the field, or he'll go right and run out into the middle of the field, and then Stu will chuck the ball. You can see the sheepdog in him. Yeah. The way he'll just suddenly come down to rest and wait, and he just loves instruction. Absolutely loves instruction. Loves knowing where he is. Loves going for a bit of a pelt round the field. Loves it. Then you've got your Karen with her French bulldog.
Yeah.
On her phone. And an extendable lead, and the dog's taking her for a walk because the dog thinks it's the boss because she's not asked. She's not keeping it. The dogs need instruction. Dogs need boundaries. You treat them a bit like kids in that respect, and they need to know who the boss is, what they can and can't do. If a dog's always barking, it's upset.
Yeah.
A quiet dog is a happy dog. So if you're just feeling obliged to walk it, we'll just get an extendable lead, then it'll stop pulling us. No, it'll just pull to the end of the lead and then just carry on pulling you. No, you need to teach it that it needs to walk by you. Zach does that now. He's a bit enthusiastic when he was younger.
Yeah.
But he's started to realise that when you have a certain lead on him, it's because you want him to walk next to you. But he knows when he's got the extendable lead, he can walk so far and he can have a bit of a sniff. But when he puts the short lead on him, he doesn't pull. He's learned that he's not supposed to. And he's chilled. And as soon as he gets on the field, he knows he's allowed to go a bit bonkers. And that's the difference. But this woman with a dog, it just started attacking other dogs. Barking and going a bit bonkers with them because it had no boundaries. It didn't know its limits. And she went, I'm sorry, he just does that. No, he doesn't just do that. You allow him to do that. Yeah. You shouldn't have that dog. You can't control. Look, he's pulling you along the street. And you're looking down at your phone. Nah, there's a bit of a fashion thing.
Another hobby that, once she gets sick of it or she finds something else, she'll be off, won't she?
Aye. Something from fast fashion or something.
Yeah. Yeah,
no, she can't own clothing brand up or something.
She can't find a handbag big enough to put the dog in now.
One of the funniest things you said before we started recording was what your dad said about westerns.
Oh.
It kind of summed up the quandary of hobbies when he said, what was he said about?
No, he said I'm going to do the gardens today, but then I spotted there's 2 westerns on this afternoon, so I've watched the westerns instead.
The westerns done because it was.
Yeah, the westerns that he's seen 20 million times each.
Because he loves
Ah,
the
the good
westerns.
ones though. The good ones though. You know.
But I didn't get the gardening done because I was watching westerns.
That's
Right.
it. He's got 6 foot of weeds in his garden now because there's westerns on every day.
You'll get the gardening done though. I'll get
No.
it done. I'll
Oh
get it
yeah.
done.
Oh yeah. I put it on my list. Be on my list. My to-do list. That to-do
I
list
wouldn't do
that's
either
never
of
ending.
them.
Yeah.
Westerns. Wouldn't be doing westerns or gardening.
Well, I have to say I have a sneaky passion for westerns, which Anita likes to take the mick out of me for.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you inherited that, have you?
I'm afraid I have. So
Well,
that's why I tend not to get sucked into sort of anything like that on the TV. I'm very, very careful because I know probably a little bit. You know, I could easily spend half a day there, so I don't do it.
so, best western actor?
John Wayne.
John Wayne. So it's definitely
Yeah.
John Wayne. Not just because people says it's John Wayne. It actually is John Wayne.
No, I just think he epitomizes even the marketing stuff. He epitomized even when he was at the end. He was struggling with cancer. He still looked like a gunslinger.
So a manly man. Your man's man.
Yeah, and I mean, there's obviously been a few before and a few after, but nobody beats John Wayne.
Do you not think action movies these days are the modern day westerns? 'Cause
Yeah,
I absolutely love an action. It doesn't matter how cheesy it is. You know, all the expendable movies.
mm,
Best thing ever. When every action hero from all the different action movies were in one movie, I thought, oh, whose idea was this? I've been waiting for this. You've got Chuck
Sly and
Norris,
Sly and
Sly.
Stone. Yeah,
Oh dear me! All of
yeah.
them. They even hide in a couple of the
Ivan Drago.
Jet Li. And I had Jet Li in there from the Kung Fu movies.
Yeah,
It's like this is. Does it get any better? Bruce Willis.
yeah.
He's in it. Oh, Harrison Ford. They chucked him in somewhere. They
Hey,
just had them all in.
I heard
Brilliant.
Harrison Ford's movie biggest disaster in 2023 in terms of revenue.
Oh, my mum asked, "Do you want to go and see Indiana Jones?" I've heard bad things.
Mm.
I've heard bad things. I was going to wait for it to stream. She went, really? Really? I said, yeah, I've heard it's a bit of a cash grabby type thing where what they've done is they've used CGI to age him.
Yeah,
So he's younger and then older, and it's some sort of story thing going on, and it just sounds. I've seen the reviews and they're not good. She went, really? Oh, that's a shame. I was going to go and watch that.
something about $300 million loss so far. Yeah, that's
The
expensive.
thing
Isn't
is, a cult classic like that, a nerd classic, right? People like me love all of those nerdy classic things. You get that wrong, you get punished.
it? Yeah,
Absolutely punished. And you'll get slaughtered by all the bloggers
yeah.
and all of these professional sort of commenters that go out there, the YouTubers. You'll get absolutely
The whole
hammered.
the whole top 5 or top 10 for this year were all taken by Marvel and the other one, whatever it is. Loss in terms of loss, the biggest losses were all those
Really?
Marvel and the other movies. What's the other movies called? Marvel and what?
What, DC?
DC. Yeah,
DC Comics. Yeah.
yeah.
Where, do you know why that is? Do you know why that is? Because they went a bit woke. That's why. Same with their series. I love all that stuff, but they've gone way far left in some of the things, and I just thought, apart from the most recent one with Thor: Love and Thunder, it was one of the funniest things I've seen in ages with the screaming goats. Oh, these flying goats, right? But to fly, they have to scream. So he had this sled on the back, and there was just some really ridiculous, old-fashioned callbacks to old action movies where he does the splits, and disasters happening in the background, and he thinks he's really cool and solved the problem, and he's just left the place an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Loads of callbacks to stuff like that. It was genuinely funny because it was Marvel just being Marvel, just being daft, and throwing in the odd thing about, I don't know, swear words and stuff, and but it was funny. It was genuinely funny.
Yeah.
It's just a shame the other stuff went a bit, like what was the other one? Eternals. was just inexplicably crap. I don't know how someone who is immortal, right, and has been around since the beginning of time, has a South American accent when it didn't exist at the beginning of time, did it?
No.
Oh, maybe that's where it came from. No. Shut up. No. So, and it was all just like one of each race, and now I thought, they've made it way too obvious. Way too obvious. So much so, we're not daft. You forget it's nerds watching this. Some of the most intelligent people on the planet, certainly in terms of spotting the difference and noticing things, and being observant. And the people that you want to please, otherwise, like I say, they kick up a stink, and you not hear the end of it. But
that was that.
There is that Tom Cruise one though.
Oh yeah, Mission Impossible 274.
My mum wants to go and see it, and I went, "Have you seen the other ones?" Nah. So, well then, how do you know what's going on? So, well, that's my mum's famous response. Well,
be read.
Well, it'll be read. She was talking about the t-shirts. She was talking about the t-shirts the other day. She's the only one you haven't done is the one that you can't do. I said, "Oh, does that get burnt?" She went, "Aye, can't do that one." So I'm tempted.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Bit of a laugh, that one. Well, North-South one didn't do well,
Did it not?
Nah, it's done alright on the other streaming platforms. YouTube, no one's interested. It's doing alright on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah.
YouTube, nah, not interested. Not interested in a bit of North-South daftness. Thought they might.
No,
obviously not. Right, so are we back on schedule for this week? Freitag.
No, I'm away at the caravan.
So Monday?
It's going to be Monday again.
Monday again next week. Right, so Monday again next week. Do some subscribing, sharing, share some posts, drop some comments, give us a challenge. See what else you want to... Oh, a couple of guests might be coming up as well. Busy arranging that. So we might have that in the back end of this month, beginning of next. Some interesting stuff. Until then, though, thanks for listening. Take care.